Hi, it's Allie and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I want to read in February. So I have a very big, ambitious list for February of books that I want to read. First, I have The Deep by Alma Katsu, and this book is set in two different timelines. The first timeline is in 1912 on board of the Titanic. And while they're on board the Titanic, spooky things are starting to happen, and maybe the Titanic didn't sink quite as we have always known it to by the iceberg. So this book kind of has some spooky elements to it. Now, the second timeline is in 1916 on board the Britannic, which is the sister ship to the Titanic. And they had claimed that it was unsinkable. But we all know that in the past, in the history, that the Britannic did end up sinking. So did these spooky things from the Titanic follow some of the survivors? So I had known nothing about this book prior to seeing it at the library. I saw it at the library, I read the synopsis of it, and it sounded so interesting to me. So I'm excited to start reading this and see what this version of the Titanic story is. Next, I have The Night Books by J.A. White, and this is a middle grade novel. And in this novel, we follow Alex, and he is kidnapped by a witch and taken to another world. And the only way that he can stay alive and safe with this witch is to tell her stories. But he is running out of stories to tell, so he needs to find a way to get out of there fast. So I'm excited to read this. I'm hoping to read it aloud to my son. I think he will find this very interesting. It kind of has a little bit of a scary side to it. I'm excited to get started reading this with him. Next, I have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, and this is an adult fantasy novel, and it was one of the most anticipated new releases of 2020. So I'm super excited to start reading this. It follows Addie, and Addie in the 1700s made a deal with a god to be immortal forever. But the other side to that was that no one would remember her. Until one day, hundreds of years later, somebody did. So it's all about Addie wanting to be remembered. I'm super excited to start reading this. I've heard so many good things about it. I've heard that it's kind of slow in the beginning, but it's well worth the time to get through that slow part because the book is a great book. So next up, I have Atomic Habits by James Clear, and this is a nonfiction book. Now, I don't read very many nonfiction books, but I've been trying to make good changes to my life starting this year, trying to be healthier, exercise more. So this book is all about changing your habits, finding ways to change your bad habits into good ones. So I think this would be a great book to read, and hopefully it will be able to help me make better habits. Next, I have To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, and this is actually a Netflix movie, and the second movie, P.S. I Still Love You, came out last year during Valentine's Day, and I believe the third movie is coming out this Valentine's Day on Netflix as well. Now, I've seen the first two movies, but I've never read the books, so I'm really excited to start reading them. I'm hoping to read the entire series this month, so we'll just see how that goes. But this story follows Lara Jean, and she writes 5 love letters to the 5 boys that she's ever loved in her life. But these love letters she just wrote for herself. She put them in a shoebox, put them under her bed, and they were never to see the light of day until one day they do. Someone had sent them to all of the boys that they were supposed to go to. So as you can imagine, her life descends into chaos after, and she's very embarrassed and mortified by some of the things that she has written in these love letters. So I'm super excited to read this during the month of February. I think it's a great Valentine's Day read. So far, this is the only love story romance that I have on my TBR for this month, which is somewhat surprising. So I'm excited to get to the series. Next, I have The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, and this follows 2 black twin sisters, and one of the twin sisters is very light-skinned and can pass off as white, and the other is darker. And when they are 16, they escape their poor black community that they lived in the South, and it follows their lives after that. So one sister, the one that can pass as white, marries a white man, and he has no idea that she is actually black. So it's about her life trying to blend into this world that she wasn't born into. And her sister ends up moving back to the town that they tried so desperately to escape, and she lives there with her daughter. And as the story goes on, their daughters' lives intertwine as well. And I'm excited to see what the outcome of this story is going to be. I think this is a great story to read. I think I will definitely learn some things from this story. Next, I have Sleigh by Brittany Morris, and I talked a little bit about this book in my book haul. This follows Kiera, and she is a teenage honors student that created a video game. And this video game was accused of being the reason why a Kansas person was murdered. And it's about Kiera and how she handles that situation. So I'm excited to read this. This is a young adult book, and I think it will be a quick read to go through. But I'm excited to read about a book that is about video games, but that has a female at the head of it. Next, I have An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, and this follows an American Black couple that is married, and Roy, the husband, is falsely accused of committing a crime. Now, there is a trigger warning for rape discussion in this book, so be aware of that before you go into it. But I think this is something that happens more often than some of us realize, where people are falsely accused of crimes that they did not commit. I'm excited to read this story just to read the point of view of Roy, the husband who was committed of this crime, and also his wife and what her perspective of the story is as well. Last, I have All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, and this follows Mary Lou, who is a little girl who goes blind in Paris. And when the Nazis occupy Paris, her and her father try to escape the city. This book also follows an orphan German boy, Werner, who ends up working for the Nazis. And his job for the Nazis is to track the resistance. And in this book, his life and Mary Lou's life end up entwining. For the past year, I've been meaning to pick this book up and read it. I've heard so many good things about it. It has a very high rating, and I'm excited to read it. I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and is one of my favorite books, and it is also a World War II novel set in Paris when the Nazis invaded. So I'm excited to read another book that is set in the same time frame and in the same place to get another view of what was going on in France during the Nazi invasion. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Make sure to comment down below what is on your TBR list this month. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when I post new content. All my social media accounts will be linked down below, as well as all of the books I mentioned today will be linked down below if you wanted to check those out on Amazon. Thank you again so much for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Bye.